Our text for this particular lesson comes from 1 Samuel chapter 8. When Samuel grew old, he appointed his sons as Israel's leaders. Now Samuel was about 60 years old at this time. The name of his firstborn was Joel, and the name of his second was Abijah, and they served at Beersheba. But his sons did not follow his ways. They turned aside after dishonest gain and accepted bribes and perverted justice. Now, while they engaged in dishonest gain, they were judged less harshly than Eli's sons because they were not members of the priesthood. They did not serve in the temple. So all the elders of Israel gathered together and came to Samuel at Ramah. They said to him, "You are old, and your sons do not follow your ways. Now appoint a king to lead us, such as all the other nations have." Like all the other nations, herein lies the primary reason for the demand for a king. But when they said, "Give us a king to lead us," this displeased Samuel, so he prayed to the Lord. Note that while disappointed, Samuel knew his strength was in the Lord. Again, it gives us a glimpse into the character of Samuel. And the Lord told him, "Listen to all that the people are saying to you. It is not you they have rejected me as their king." Wow, they have rejected me. God's assurance to Samuel, but it's a condemnation to Israel. This showed a complete lack of trust in the faithfulness and power of God. "As they have done from the day I brought them up out of Egypt until this day, forsaking me and serving other gods, so they are doing to you." Israel has repeatedly refused to trust God in spite of the miraculous things he has done. God told Samuel, "So they are doing to you also." When you obey God's word, you stand the possibility or even the probability of experiencing the world's hatred and rejection. Now listen to them, but warn them solemnly, and let them know what the king who will reign over them will claim as his rights. God is granting their wish, but it's a terrible demand. Samuel told all the words of the Lord to the people who were asking him for a king. This is a character trait that God honored. Beginning when Samuel first heard the voice of the Lord when with Eli, he told all the words of the Lord. He said, "This is what the king who will reign over you will claim as his rights. He will take your sons and make them serve with his chariots and horses, and they will run in front of his chariots. Some he will assign to be commanders of thousands and commanders of 50s, and others to plow his ground and reap his harvest, and still others to make weapons of war and equipment for his chariots. He will take your daughters to be perfumers and cooks and bakers. He will take the best of your fields and vineyards and olive groves and give them to his attendants. He will take 1/10 of your grain and of your vintage and give it to his officials and attendants. Your male and female servants and the best of your cattle and donkeys he will take for his own use. He will take 1/10 of your flocks, and you yourselves will become his slaves. When that day comes, you will cry out for relief from the king you have chosen, but the Lord will not answer you in that day." The Lord will not answer you. It's a prophetic warning that we will see fulfilled in Saul's final days as well. But the people refused to listen to Samuel. "No," they said, "we want a king over us. Then we will be like all the other nations. with a king to lead us and to go out before us and fight our battles. When Samuel heard all that the people said, he repeated it before the Lord. Again, Samuel's default is to go to the Lord. The Lord answered, "Listen to them and give them a king." Then Samuel said to the Israelites, "Everyone go back to your own town." At the outset of this text, Samuel faced a disappointing rejection by the elders' request. They wanted a king. Anytime we face rejection, we have the propensity to react inappropriately. So take a moment and put yourself in Samuel's position and ask yourself this question: how would I have reacted to this situation? Samuel warned them how a king would treat them. He warned them of conscription for the king's service. Your sons will be drafted into the king's army and made to run before his chariots. Others will become commanders or laborers in agriculture and weapons production. He warned them of servitude and loss of personal freedom. Your daughters will be conscripted to serve in the king's court. He warned them of the confiscation of property. The king will seize the best of your land, produce, and livestock for his own use and for his officials. He warned Israel of heavy taxation. You will be taxed heavily, and this is likely in addition to the tithes already expected under the law. He warned the people of enslavement. The people would ultimately lose their autonomy and become like servants to the king. And finally, he warned them of the loss of recourse. When they realize the cost and cry out, God will not intervene, because they will have chosen this path knowingly. His message was clear: be careful what you ask for. You may get it and regret it. And still, they chose to suffer under human rule rather than trust God's leadership. Dale Davis makes some interesting observations. Number one, we have a passion for substitutes, often resulting from life's frustrations. The rejection in verse 7 and 8 is simply old idolatry with a new twist. The fault was not found in the request, but in the motive. The problem is not the monarchy, but in the trust of a monarchy. It is a subtle but clear substitution. A king is a must, not in God we trust. Number two, notice chapter 4 and chapter 8 and the mistakes that are made. In chapter 4, Israel is guilty of superstition. They trust in the ark among us, that is, manipulating God. In chapter 8, they are guilty of a political demand, that is, a demand for a king over us. This is a substitution for God. But this is the same idolatry, depending on something other than God Himself. Number three, Israel's mistakes are instructions for us. We view our own life challenges and problems from our own perspective, rather than seeking to see the things through the lens of God's perspective. that is, with spiritual understanding. We look for a better technique to solve our problems. We're not content with seeking a saving God and waiting on Him, but desire to direct how and when He will save. Sometimes God's kindness is seen when He does not answer our prayers as we wish. A yes to our request could be to our own peril. Our proposals and solutions can be completely reasonable, clearly logical, and totally godless. We might think an ingredient is tasty, but it could be bitter by itself. Only God knows the complete recipe. Number 4, our natural desire is to blend in, but God calls us to be set apart. When Israel said, "We want to be like all the nations," it was more than an expression. It was a passion. But Israel was special. Go back and read Deuteronomy 4, verses 32 to 40. They were to be different, and so are we. But sometimes we prefer to keep in step with our culture and fit into the molds of society. Number 5, we have an immunity to wisdom. In verse 10, Samuel spoke all the words of the Lord. He was always the faithful servant. Then he gave the warning, "He will take," talking about the king, "he will take." But in verse 19, the people refused to listen. They chose folly over wisdom. You see, knowledge, information, or even truth does not in itself produce change. Education may clarify, but it does not transform. There's a difference between having the truth and loving the truth. 2 Thessalonians 2:10 tells us they refuse to love the truth and so be saved. You see, only loving the truth leads to obeying the truth. So today's text leaves us with a couple of very important lessons. Number 1, what seems expedient is not always best. Samuel was getting old, but to demand a king was a rejection of God's leadership, not Samuel's. You see, this wasn't just a political decision. It was a spiritual crisis. It was a lack of trust in God's leadership. Number 2, Israel wanted things their own way, but living life God's way was best. The same can be said of our lives today. And finally, we're left with a couple of very introspective questions. Number 1, where in our lives have we done what it was expedient, only to find we should have trusted God? Number 2, when has He proven to be trustworthy and faithful when we waited on His direction? Think about it. Consider your motives and follow Him. May God bless you.